Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Is the 2024 Harley-Davidson Street Glide the best motorcycle Harley-Davidson has ever made? I'm going to argue that it is, but for full transparency, you need to know that I own a 2024 Harley-Davidson Street Glide, so I may be a little biased. And these are purely, my opinions. I want to know what your opinion is. What do you think is the best motorcycle that Harley-Davidson has ever made? Or I say it's the Street Glide, the 2024 Street Glide. Maybe I should say the stock Street Glide or base model. I mean, clearly there are CVOs that have bells and whistles that mine does not have, but for me, a CVO is really never on my radar because I don't want to spend that kind of money on a motorcycle. Now, the elephant in the room would be the Harley Road Glide. I think the Harley Road Glide is now outselling the Street Glide. So I know some would argue that the Harley Road Glide is the best motorcycle. The 2024 is the best motorcycle that Harley-Davidson has ever made. But Harley's made so many good motorcycles over the years. I've been riding motorcycles for over 50 years, over 20 of that. Own Harley-Davidsons, I have owned 7. This is my 7th Harley-Davidson. I love the brand, and over the years they just keep improving the brands. And so stay tuned, and I'll tell you why I think that the 2024 Street Glide is the best motorcycle that Harley-Davidson has ever made. And first, let me give you a quick walk around of my bike, and then I'll present my case. So I have added 3 things to my bike: the tall 10-inch Harley-Davidson brand windshield. I did add the Harley-Davidson Sundowner seat, and then an aftermarket tour pack. I don't know what I'm going to do next. It's either going to be probably tab, slip-on exhaust, or upgrade the sound system. The sound system, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know the sound system's not very good on this bike. But again, overall, I think it is a great bike, and stay tuned, and again, I'll argue why I think that this is the best motorcycle to date that Harley-Davidson has ever made. It is December in north central North Carolina. It gets cold here in North Carolina. It was down in the teens last night. Now it's warmed up to 50. But I noticed that last winter was our first winter here in North Carolina. And it will get bitterly cold at night. And fortunately, most days it does warm up nice like today. But back to my argument. And be sure and comment what you think is the best motorcycle that Harley-Davidson has ever made. Now, there are a number of reasons I think the Street Glide checks all the boxes. One is looks. Now, I know beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and Harley-Davidson has made so many gorgeous bikes over the years, but I think you have to admit that this is probably the most iconic looking of all the Harley-Davidsons. If for no other reason, just so many police motorcycles out on the road with this batwing fairing, and they've been making this batwing fairing since 1969. Now, it has had some subtle changes over the years. Matter of fact, of course, beginning with the 2023 Street Glide CVO, they reshaped the batwing fairing, and then the base model Street Glide inherited that upgrade for 2024. I thought it was interesting the Ultra Limited did not, but rumors are the Ultra Limited may be going away. If you want the Ultra Limited, you'll just buy a Street Glide and put the amenities on it. So looks, I think the Street Glide checks the box. Now, as I said, the elephant in the room as far as a contender for the best motorcycle that Harley-Davidson has ever made could be the Road Glide, because it's essentially the same bike, and the new fairing looks gorgeous on the Road Glide. But the Street Glide, the changes were more subtle, therefore I think it makes it look more more iconic. So looks, I think it looks great. They subtly reshaped the tank and the bags, which I think just added to the overall appearance. And then let's see, comfort. They improved the suspension. I've done a 500-mile day on this bike with the stock seat, and now I have the touring seat on it, or with the sundowner. And so you can crush hundreds of miles a day on this motorcycle. It's comfortable for the long haul. You can commute back and forth to work. I'm amazed at how light it feels. Now, it did lose a few pounds in 2024, and it is 100 pounds lighter than the Indian Roadmaster I had. Of course, it was what we used to call the full dresser, but it feels way lighter than any touring bike I have ever owned. It does not feel at all like an 800-pound motorcycle. And it is extremely nimble, the most nimble touring bike I have ever owned. I think they did something different where the triple trees bolt on. I don't know if they made the front end lighter, or if it's just the low profile, more sporty tire, or the suspension upgrades, but very little effort at all to get this thing to turn. I mean, it handles extremely well. Performance, oh my goodness, I love this 117 motor. Most of the time I leave it in ride mode, or road mode I guess they call it. When I get up in the mountains, I do definitely put it in sport mode, and you put this thing in sport mode, you better hang on, because it'll scoot. And then in the rain, I do put it in rain mode. I figure, better safe than sorry. Of course, it's got all that technology with it, supposed to help in an emergency situation. Speaking of emergency situation, the brakes, the best brakes I've ever had on a touring bike, maybe any Harley-Davidson for that matter. It stops extremely well, which again is amazing when you consider the weight. And then this motor has liquid cooled heads. I think that helps with performance, certainly helps with rider comfort. Heat management is excellent. I rode it back in May, so I've ridden it through one summer here in North Carolina, and yes, it does not get as hot here as it did back home in Texas, but it still gets hot. And so the motor is excellent. So looks, performance, handling, I really think it's a motorcycle you can do anything with. If you want to jump on it and ride it across the country, you can. You just want to ride it back and forth to work. You just want to get out on a Saturday afternoon, and ride down to the local coffee shop, hang out at the dealership, whatever the case may be. This thing is it's an all-around great motorcycle. I even think a beginner could do okay on this bike. Certainly, maybe somebody a little older and a little wiser, a young adult with this extra performance might get out there and get themselves in trouble. I think a new rider, they might want to start out riding it in rain mode for a while, but it just, if you were careful on it, I mean, it is heavy. It doesn't feel its weight, but it is still a heavy bike. Now, why do I think it's better than the Road Glide? My first impression with the Road Glide is I like the Road Glide better, but I bought the Street Glide, and here's why. Besides the reasons as far as the iconic look of the Batwing, I really think the Batwing gives better wind and weather protection. I think it protects me better from the cold wind and the pouring rain. I think I can really hunker down behind it, where the Road Glide fairing it is much farther forward, so I feel like I get wind coming over and rain coming over that fairing where I can hunker down. And I always like to point out my camera is mounted on the chin of my full face helmet, so I don't actually look through the windshield the way it appears on screen. I'm looking just above the windshield, but I can hunker way down when I need to. So I think that's where it outshines the Road Glide. I know some people are going to say, well, the Road Glide cuts through the wind better, and I'll accept that argument, but we're in the wind all the time anyway. Yes, there may be a fraction less wind, and they say, well, you know, it can move my handlebars a little bit mounted to the forks, and it can, and maybe that'll add to a little fatigue, but when I can hunker down behind it and have less wind fatigue, it's on my upper body and my shoulders and things. I still think the Batwing is better. And parking lots. I still have 4 kids at home. It's not uncommon for, you know, every other day or so I'm stopping at the supermarket buying groceries. So I drive in a parking lot on a regular basis, and usually when I see somebody drop their touring bike, it's either in a parking lot or in an intersection where there's a hill. And I really think, again, this Batwing fairing is more nimble, easier to maneuver in a parking lot because I can see over it better. Because it turns with the handlebars, it just, I don't know, I think it's more maneuverable. And of course, you know, you see motorcycle cops, they're either road kings or Batwing fairings, either windshields or Batwing fairings. I don't know if I've ever seen a motorcycle cop on a Road Glide. Now, I've seen people on those courses, you know, do amazing things on the Road Glide. I think slow speed maneuvers are better on the Street Glide. I have gotten stuck on a gravel road. You know, navigation sometimes will take you the shortest distance, and I've been farther down a gravel road on this motorcycle than I had liked. I don't like driving in gravel on an 800-pound motorcycle, but this bike has done extremely well. I mean, obviously you're not going to go off-roading on it, but I've also gotten caught on a dirt road. I guess after I did the Tail of the Dragon, I just got to wandering around and ended up on a dirt road. I didn't go very far before I turned around because I didn't want to go a long distance on a dirt road. But again, overall, this is just an incredible motorcycle. I just am amazed at how well it handles, performs. I like the tech, and the screen is much closer on the Street Glide than the Road Glide, and it does have the full tech screen, which some may say that's a disadvantage. I was a little worried about that in the beginning. I thought, well, maybe I need to go with the Ultra Limited where it still has analog gauges, and I may one day regret having all digital, but I think that's one thing that makes this motorcycle shine. Of course, again, the Road Glide has the same digital screen, it's just a lot farther forward. The little drawer tray on the Batwing fairing is pretty cool. So I'm pleased with my decision. I almost bought the Road Glide. Maybe next time I will buy the Road Glide. One option I've got at some point is to keep this one and buy a Road Glide, or at some point I may keep this one and buy another Indian. I really enjoy the Indian motorcycles that I've owned as well. But when it comes to Harley-Davidson, I believe that this is the best motorcycle that Harley-Davidson has ever made. And again, if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. You know, we all have our preferences. I mean, if everybody agreed with me, there'd be nothing but street glides on the showroom floor, because obviously they have all different kind of soft tails and touring bikes and on and on. But be sure and tell me, what do you like? What do you think's the best motorcycle Harley-Davidson has ever made, and why do you think it's the best? And remember, if you like to ride as much as you can, because one day we're all going to be too old to ride.